I used to think disappearing meant leaving, packing a bag, changing cities, cutting names out of my phone like infected tissue. I was wrong. You can disappear without moving an inch. I learned how to do it young. How to be present without being seen. How to nod at the right moments, laugh softly, take up as little space as possible. People called it politeness, maturity, grace. They didn't see the cost. There's a strange safety in becoming smaller. When you shrink, expectations loosen their grip. When you stay quiet, no one asks too many questions. When you blur the edges of yourself, you stop attracting attention, and attention can hurt. So I perfected the art of fading. I became the person people talked at, not to. The one who listened, absorbed, remembered everything, while saying almost nothing. I learned how to mirror what others needed: calm, understanding, agreement, while keeping my own thoughts locked somewhere deep and unreachable. At some point, even I stopped knowing where I'd put them. There was a moment more forgettable to anyone else when I realized I was gone. I was standing in a kitchen that wasn't mine, holding a mug I didn't remember choosing, listening to someone explain my own feelings to me. And I nodded, automatically, politely. Inside, something went very still. It wasn't anger or sadness. It was absence. I went home that night and stared at myself in the mirror for a long time, not searching for beauty or flaws, just confirmation. Proof that I existed beyond reflection. My face looked familiar. My eyes did not. That's the quiet damage no one warns you about. How easily you can become a background character in your own life. Leaving wasn't sudden. It rarely is. It happened in inches, in withheld responses, in unanswered messages, in moments where I chose myself so quietly that no one noticed I was gone until much later. Freedom didn't feel like relief at first. It felt like standing in an empty room with no instructions, without other people defining me. I didn't know where to place my hands. My voice sounded strange when I used it. My opinions felt sharp, dangerous, like weapons I didn't know how to handle. I almost went back, almost chose the familiar ache over the terrifying unknown. But something stopped me. Not courage, not strength. Exhaustion. I was too tired to disappear again. Now, I'm learning how to take up space without apologizing for it. How to speak without rehearsing 10 versions first. How to let silence exist without using it as a shield. Some days, I still fade a little. Old habits don't die easily, but I come back faster now. I ground myself in small, undeniable truths. The weight of my body against the floor, the sound of my breath. The fact that my choices, however quiet, are mine. I no longer confuse being needed with being loved. I no longer mistake attention for connection. And I no longer disappear to make others comfortable. I exist, not loudly, not dramatically. But fully. And this time, I intend to stay. Staying sounds simple when you say it out loud. I'm still here, for words, light, almost harmless. But staying is work. Staying means feeling everything you spent years avoiding. It means letting emotions surface without immediately burying them under distraction, humor, or silence. It means facing the echo of who you used to be and accepting that she did what she had to do to survive. Some mornings, I wake up already tired. Not the kind of tired sleep fixes, but the deep exhaustion of rebuilding something from ruins, of deciding, over and over again, not to disappear when discomfort shows up uninvited. I notice things now. How my shoulders tense when someone interrupts me. How my voice drops when I'm unsure. How quickly I apologize for existing, for needing, for wanting. Old reflexes. They flare up when I least expect them. At grocery stores. In conversations that turn slightly uncomfortable. When someone looks at me too long, like they're trying to read something I'm not ready to explain. Sometimes I still catch myself rehearsing exits, imagining how to fade out gracefully, how to become smaller again if things get too loud, too real. But then I stop, I breathe, I stay. There's grief in that choice, grief for the years I spent shrinking, for the girl who learned too early that being quiet felt safer than being honest, for the version of me that believed love had to be earned through endurance. I mourn her. Not because she was weak, but because she deserved better tools. Memory doesn't come back in order. It never does. It arrives sideways, triggered by smells, sounds, casual phrases spoken by strangers who have no idea they just unlocked something buried. A laugh that sounds too familiar. A tone that tightens my chest. A question asked with just enough authority to make my stomach drop. And suddenly, I'm not here anymore. I'm there back in moments where my silence was mistaken for consent. Where my stillness was read as agreement. Where my fear learned how to wear a neutral face. Healing isn't linear. It spirals. It circles old wounds and asks new questions. Why didn't you leave sooner? Why didn't you say something? Why did you stay quiet? For a long time, those questions felt like accusations. Now, I answer them gently, because I didn't know I could. Because I was scared. Because silence once kept me alive. That truth doesn't excuse what happened, but it releases me from carrying blame that was never mine. I talk more now, not dramatically. Not all at once, in fragments, a sentence here, a boundary there, a no that shakes slightly, but holds. People react differently to that. Some respect it immediately. Some test it. Some don't like it at all. That's been one of the hardest lessons. Not everyone benefits from your growth. And not everyone will celebrate it when you stop disappearing. You become inconvenient to those who relied on your absence. I've lost people, not through arguments or explosions, but through quiet distance. Through unanswered messages and conversations that never quite restart. Through realizing that some connections only survived because I kept making myself smaller. That loss still hurts, but it hurts less than losing myself again. There are nights when the old weight returns, when silence creeps back in, heavy and familiar, sitting beside me like an old companion that knows exactly where to press. On those nights, I don't fight it. I don't run. I sit with it. I remind myself that silence is no longer a prison, it's a choice. A pause, not an erasure. I let myself feel lonely without turning it into self-erasure. I let sadness exist without treating it like a failure. That took practice. So did learning how to want things. Desire is terrifying when you've spent years denying it. Wanting means risking disappointment, rejection, exposure. I started small. I wanted quiet mornings. I wanted conversations that didn't feel like performances. I wanted to feel safe in my own skin. Then the wants grew bolder. I wanted respect. I wanted honesty. I wanted to be seen without having to bleed for it. Saying those wants out loud felt almost dangerous at first. Like tempting fate. Like asking for too much. But nothing broke. The world didn't punish me for wanting more. And slowly, that changed something fundamental inside me. I stopped measuring my worth by how little space I took up. I stopped confusing being needed with being valued. I stopped treating discomfort as a sign I was doing something wrong. Sometimes discomfort is just growth. Stretching muscles that haven't been used in a long time. I still have days where I doubt myself. Days where I wonder if I'm overreacting. If I'm imagining things. If it would be easier to stay quiet. Those thoughts don't disappear entirely. But now, they don't get the final word. I listen to my body more than my fear. To the tightness in my chest that signals something isn't right. To the calm that settles in when I honor my boundaries. My body remembers what my mind tried to forget. Trusting it feels like reclaiming a language I once spoke fluently and then lost. I don't tell my whole story to everyone. Not everyone deserves access to my scars, but I no longer lie about who I am. I no longer soften my truth to make it easier to digest. I no longer shrink my experiences into palatable fragments so others don't feel uncomfortable. My story is mine, and it exists whether or not anyone else understands it. There's a strange peace in that realization. Not the kind of peace that erases pain, but the kind that coexists with it, that allows joy and grief to share the same space without cancelling each other out. I'm not healed in the way movies promise. I don't wake up every day fearless and radiant. I don't have perfect closure or neatly resolved memories. What I have is presence. I notice when I'm here and when I start to drift. I catch myself sooner. I come back faster. I forgive myself more easily. That might be the most radical change of all. There are moments now, small, quiet moments where I feel something close to pride. Pride in the way I speak up even when my voice shakes. Pride in the way one choose myself without needing permission. Pride in the fact that I stay. Not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. I don't disappear anymore, even on the days when the silence gets loud. When memories rise uninvited. When fear whispers that shrinking would be safer I stay, I breathe. I take up space. And for the first time, that feels like home.